Etta J, thanks for getting on. Marquette Douglas, thank you for getting on. Coach Corey. Coach Corey, I forgot to text the guys, man. Put in the group chat that we on tonight, if they can get on, please. Des, thank you for coming on. Seth, what's good? You out there acting like Obama, man, like you don't want to be get in contact with. All good, man. You know what it is. John Beagle, what's going on? Make sure you represent at St. Thomas More too, man. That's my alma mater. Every day you go into that gym, John Beagle, look up on that wall in 1992. Think of Coach Dozier and that championship I bought there. A lot to live up to. I'm going to talk to you and Riley Mulvey about that all the time, man. Any kid I know that go to St. Thomas More, I got to throw that in your face. Coach, man, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I see you on. Bet. Charlton, you see I had to wear the mellow shirt tonight, man. I had to keep it close to Black Ops. Showtime. Welcome to episode 63 of the Positive Impact Podcast, where we talk about all topics relevant to the game I love. I am your host, Terrell Dozier, and tonight's guest I'm super excited to talk to. Former St. Ray's guard, former UMass legend, Mr. Charlton Clarke. There he
Terrell,
is.
good.
What's going on with you?
Hey, nothing, man. Just getting back in the house from being with the family. You know how it goes.
Okay. You can hear me good?
Yes, I could, definitely.
Good. Glad to have you on, man. First question I always ask, though, man. I got a, crazy time out here right now with this pandemic and everything, man. How are you and the family stay safe and healthy during this time?
Man, I appreciate it. All is well. Can't complain, man. COVID has been crazy for a lot of people. So, for all who's listening and especially your family and everybody else, hope all is well. You know, like everybody's family has some rough patches. Lost a couple of loved ones within the situation. But at the same token, it's taught us a lot. It's taught us to get healthy. It's taught us to take care of our bodies and not ignore those underlying things that's going on with ourselves, because, self-care is definitely important. But when you're ripping and running and working so hard, that seems to get lost and pushed to the side, So
Nah, no
all is
question.
well, man. I can't complain.
No question. So I got a lot I want to talk about tonight. I got a
Listen,
lot I want to talk about tonight.
let me
Okay?
situate myself. I'm here for it.
Let's go. High five. What's going on? You see High Five got on here tonight. So
My God,
let's
Red
get it
Freeman.
going.
Yes,
Let's
indeed.
get it going. So take me back to the Genesis, my man. Take me back to the Genesis. I always gotta start in the beginning, man. Talk about who put the ball in Charlton Clarke's hand, or just tell me how you came in and fell in love with this game, man. That's taking you so many places.
Ah, man. Damn. Let's bring it all the way back. Started playing ball. Started very late, actually. Started very late. My neighborhood where I grew up, the Kingsbridge roadside, close to Fordham, Marble Hill Projects, Cedric Avenue. A lot of those guys over there that weren't known stars kind of helped raise me, right? I went to a small public school over there by Marble Hill, and religiously, nah, shorty, you can't play right now. You got next, sit to the side, take your basketball. Let's play with your good basketball, but you got to sit to the side. And then little by little, I just kept showing interest, right? And, a lot of guys who aren't known in the basketball world, and some who made it to different levels, kind of took me under the wing. Guy Kev Spence from Marble Hill side. I had a lot of people, guys on my block who didn't go too far, but, really showed me the ropes. I mean, Mike DeLike, Ron Jeter, a lot of these old school cats that kind of took me under the wing, right? And I started playing on the fire escapes. So I lived in a building, and fire escapes, the two fire escapes, and that's where we had our dunk contest, our three-point shootout. We did it all on the fire escape, right? And I lived on the first floor, so every time you dunked the ball, it would hit my window. My moms would go crazy. And, when you shake the fire escape, it goes from the first floor all the way up to the sixth floor.
Right.
So little by little, got off the fire escape and started sneaking out the house and going to the park at night. Right. I lived on the first floor. Like I said, I just climbed out the window when my moms fell asleep, went to the park and shooting by myself, and, little by little, studying the game, doing different things, and building myself up. My father wasn't around. He lived in Brooklyn. I lived in the Bronx, so he used to come get me on the weekends. But everybody I grew up with was older than me. Mm-hmm. So once again, in order for me to fit in, either you had to play and do what you had to do, or so little by little, I started to catch the love, right? And then do junior high school. Me and Orlando Antigua went to the same junior high school. Once again, he was older than me, and he lived closer by Tallentine. And it was so funny. I used to drop my younger sister off to Tallentine to daycare center. So I used to walk from where I lived all the way over to Tallentine to drop her off. And little by little, you know, as playing ball and doing different things, because I was a baseball star too. So I played baseball more than anything, baseball, football, and basketball. So around the way, you know, everybody kind of grew up. It was like, yo, got this young kid out here who just played ball, and he's nice. So Orlando took it upon himself and be like, you know what? I played for the Gauchos. Let me bring you down to this tryout one time. I went. First time, I just came back from Jamaica with the family, because the family's from Jamaica. I'll never forget it. I had on these pineapple swimming trunks and a fishnet tank top. If you know you're Jamaican, you gotta have a fishnet tank top. And I got to practice, well, tryout really, but I got there late for my age group. At that time, I was 11. But when I got there, the 16-year-olds were playing. So I just jumped on the court, started playing, doing what I had to do. And then it was curtains after that. It was kind of like, nah, we need you to come back. How old are you? Like, I'm 11. I got cursed out, told get the fuck out the gym. Excuse my French for anybody who's listening. I was told to get out the gym because once again, back days it was Gauchos or Riverside. Right. If you made one of those two teams, you was legendary. Right. And you know, people used to lie a lot about their age. Once again, I'm naive to this. I never played ball before, so this is my first time experiencing anything like this. So, you know, when I got cursed out, I was crying, felt some type of way, and Orlando came down from the office and was like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, you know, this dude told me to get out the gym. So Orlando went over to talk to one of the coaches. It was Dave Jones or Dave McCullough, one of the. He's like, nah, this kid is really young. He lives in my area. He's really, really young, and this is real age. So I jumped on the phone, called my mother. I said, Mom, could you please tell these people I want to play basketball? Could you please tell them my real age? So she's like, why are you crying? You know, Jamaican parents, they don't play.
She's ready to come down there.
With the whole Massive crew. She was ready to turn up. So she was like, come home now. And then, you know, they drove me home, and it was kind of like, tomorrow, come with your birth certificate. So I came back the next day with my birth certificate. They seen that it was legit, and it was like, oh, shit, we just found a diamond in the rough. And ever since then, you know, just started playing basketball, man, and fell in love with it at the age of 11.
Okay, nah, no doubt about it. I love that story. Shout out to Orlando Antigua. So was Orlando, so you said you used to walk your sister up to daycare at Talentine, which was a powerhouse then. I don't know if it was closed then or not. So
it closed after that.
There. So you there, but now Orlando went to St. Ray's.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like, you get tight with him. Is Orlando the reason why you went to St. Ray's?
If you ask him, he's going to say yes.
Okay.
At that time, as I was going into high school, Talentine had closed the year before I got into high school. Playing at the Gauchos, it was either two things. It was either St. Raymond's, it was Rice, and then you sprinkled out through all the other schools at the time. But once again, I was a Bronx kid. I only knew the Bronx. I played baseball in the Bronx. I played football in the Bronx and basketball. So once I started playing with the Gauchos, that's when I started getting exposed to everything else. Didn't know too much about Harlem, and I didn't travel that much. So I just stayed in my area. So, you know, I had a couple of kids from my area that went to St. Raymond's as well. So just evidently the right thing for me to do, because that's who I knew. I didn't know nobody else. That's who I knew. So, you know, Orlando definitely did put the good word in. My high school coach, Gary DeCesar, came to the Gaucho gym very often to see us practice and play, was at a lot of games. And it was just a match made in heaven, pretty much.
Nah, no question. So every time I turn around, man, I got somebody from St. Ray's up on here, man. I done have Book on here. I done had Terrence on here. Like, you know what I mean? I done had Kareem on here. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm running through St. Ray's right now. You know what I mean? Like, I got to go get Orlando at some point, I guess, man. But so you make the decision to go to St. Ray's. Gary DeCesar, legendary New York City coach. Legendary New York City coach. So talk about, you know what I'm saying, you're making this, you know, you're 11 years old playing with the Gauchos, and now you're coming up through the ranks and you make this decision to go to St. Ray's. So what was your biggest jump from middle school basketball to high school basketball?
I wouldn't really say it was a big jump, right? Because playing with the Gauchos, you are exposed to so many different talents on so many different levels. Um, and that's where I kind of heard the first mantra, kind of like no blood, no foul, right? So the things we used to do at the gauchos, I mean, running with the punching bags on our back, monkey taps, tapping the floor as you run around the gym for 3-4 minutes. Um, it just mentally prepared me for whatever was to come, right? It was, I don't want to call it a jungle, I mean, because, you know, in times you got to be politically correct, but it was more of like survival of the fittest. If you wanted to survive, you had to do what you had to do. You had to be tough-minded. You had to have tough skin in order to survive in those times for me, right? And I attribute a lot of that too because my mother and father wasn't around. They stayed at home. I traveled on the train, got to practice, did what I had to do. They wasn't there to sugarcoat and baby me and hold my hand. It's kind of was like, whatever your coach say you do, that's what you got to do, right? And it was just tough. It molded me. It made me tougher. It made me wiser to understand. So I was mentally and physically prepared to go into St. Raymond's, right? And then once again, where I was raised, you know, Marble Hill, Kingsbridge, Cedric Avenue, Fordham, St. James Park. I used to go to all these different areas to play basketball, and the OGs kind of raised me and made sure it's kind of like, now you young, but you got to come into this fire. You're going to have to take your licks first in order for you to understand what it is to progress through this game. And I thank all of them countlessly, right? They just made me tougher. It was a different era back then, right?
Yes.
I say as a educator, we were raised different back then. We were allowed to go make these mistakes as youngsters, right? Whereas now, parents are so heavily involved because the streets are so much different. We're not allowing our kids to go out there and make these mistakes and correct the mistakes before they come home, right? As parents, we're out there correcting the mistakes for our children. So it's a whole different element that we're going through right now. And, you know, I'm thankful and blessed that I got a chance to go through that era and take my lumps and my bruises and also decipher my way through and how to navigate and become successful in whatever it is I'm doing right now.
No question, no question. So I had you brought up a good topic, and I talked to Adrian Walton on one of my episodes, and we talked about growing up in our era and OGs. Like, we feel like that's what's missing now, and there's probably some OGs out there, but kids aren't listening to the OGs like we listened to the OGs back then. Right. So it didn't matter if you made it to the top or not. The OGs had some type of knowledge to give to us, and we kind of took that, like, you know what I mean? Because an OG, right, if whatever mistake that they make, they making sure that we took it as,
that's a big fact.
He's still looking out for us. You understand what I'm saying? It didn't matter where he was at right now in his life. Right. That knowledge was still power for us, and we took that knowledge and we ran with it. And you know, today I feel like a lot of the OG is missing, and we'll touch on that because of what you're doing now. You know what I'm saying? And kind of what I'm doing now is we're kind of trying to be the OGs with the kids that we touch.
Without question. Shout out to my man Adrian Walton too. He definitely hit it on the head, right? I think more or less though, we were outside doing different things and playing ball, so you got to connect with those OGs. Now, as us OGs, unless your kid is involved or outside, you're not going to be able to touch the OGs the way we touched them back then, right? We were next to them. We was rubbing elbows. We was going to watch these games to make sure that we see what's going on, to learn stuff. Nowadays, if parents aren't bringing you to a tournament, they're not allowing you to be outside amongst older people to get that knowledge, unless it's somebody that they know, who they grew up with, right? And that's why, you know, society and things are different today. Definitely.
Yeah, my man Freeway Ricky talking about the village for sure.
That's a fact.
But you can't always trust the village. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust the village now. Like, you know what I mean? We always wonder, like, how my mom know everything that happened to me. It wasn't no cell phones, no nothing, because it rang through the village. It rang through your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So, that's a huge thing, and I know we carry that around in us today. But I got to talk about I gotta talk about St. Ray's and this backcourt that you was a part of, man.
Ooh.
And these cats that you played with, man. So
Ooh.
talk about the competition, man, every day when you walked up in St. Raymond's gym.
Whew. I mean, let's touch back on the village first. My man Rich, who checked in. What's up, Rich? Another one of the OGs that kind of helped raise me too, right? Gave me that knowledge. At St. Raymond's, it was the best amongst the best, right? In the backcourt when I played, I had Kareem Reed, who's a legend in New York City. I think one of the toughest guards I've ever played with that had the most heart, right? Eric Harris, who probably was one of the best defenders in the country at the time, with the strongest hands, who played against anybody. He didn't care, right? You cross him up, you make him fall, whatever the case may be, but he's coming back at some point to get at you, right? I played with Tyler Brown, who's another legend at St. Raymond's, who was someone I looked up to when I got to St. Raymond's because he was older than me. But once again, I also knew that I didn't want to be the baby sitting on the bench, right? So it's kind of like I got to push Tyler because I want to play just as well as he does. Damon Bonaparte. You had Rasan Thompson. We had, Dana Dingle, Dwayne Dingle. So many great players. And then the ones who paved the way before us, like Book, Emmanuel Richardson, like Terrence Rencher, like Orlando Antigua, Gary Massey, Michael Thompson, Darryl Reed, Eddie Rivera, who was a killer back in the days, and I've got to hear so much about. So St. Raymond's was very prestigious. And then as I was there, playing with Kareem and Eric, it was whatever, right? You just wolves, like whoever's in front of us, it is what it is, right?
Right.
It was war every day. Practice was wars, right? So that when we got on the court, it was so much easier for us. And then, the publicity that we was getting and the type of college coaches that was coming through that door, 95% of those kids all got Division I scholarships and went on to schools, right? And then the classes after me, I had, an amazing guard in Bernard Barrows, Vaughn Hunter, God bless the dead, my brother, who just recently passed away, Clarence Cooper, Jamal Fields, Ernest Brown. I mean, you name it, we had nothing but talent coming through there. So once again, if you wanted to be a killer, you had to put your shoes on every day and perform, right? Nothing was being handed to you. Right. And I think that's a lot of the differences that I see going on in today's game and society. The competing part is missing, even within friends, right? Shamgard, my guy, is one of my best friends. We hang out off the court, but when we was on the court, it was kind of like, who's the best, me or you? Stephon Marbury, another one who played on my Gaucho team. We were friends off the court, but on the court, it's kind of like, you got a name, I got a name. I got a rep, you got a rep, right? And it was friendly war. That's what I call it, friendly war. Even guys at Riverside who we played against, like everybody tried to make it a comparison between Gauchos and Riverside. It was just pretty much dog for dog. Nobody wanted to go home without their food. You understand what I'm saying? And everybody wanted to keep their name and their reputation. But off the court, we was all boys. We were all cool. We were all trying to make it to the same spot. So I think that friendly competition is missing in the game right now because everybody want to be friends. Nobody want to say, I got a one-up on you, or let's go to the park and scrap it out. And every day, let's battle, right? If you lose, you buy dinner. If I win, you know what I'm saying? Right. I don't think that friendly banter is there anymore, and it's just too cool. And I see the game and the landscape going all different types of ways because that killer instinct and that mojo isn't there anymore. But back then we had it. It's the only way we could have survived.
Right. No question. And when you talk about surviving, man, I think so much is given to these kids so early. You know what I'm saying? I think that's part of it, right? So now the game has become more commercial. The game has become big business, right? So, not saying that, Gauchos and Riverside didn't travel all over the country, because they did. Didn't say that, kids were taken care of, like, and didn't get stuff. But, like, you're talking about all over the place, man. Like, kids is on teams for bag tags and they want to get to certain tournament. Like the wrong things mean the most to them. Like, and that's what I try to say. Like, listen, man, you're playing that person across from you. When you get in between the lines, it's a dog eat dog world, and you're right, man. We're missing that right now. It's not about the EYBL sneakers that you're getting or this pair free. Listen, we playing for the scholarship, and I'm playing for my pride first and foremost. I'm out there not to try to lose, and I do think that stuff is missing right now, and it's important. Like when guys like you get back to the game, and we start giving back to the game, it's like we got to start changing the narrative again and bring that OG back and really get back to the basics of why you're out there playing basketball. The point of playing the game is to stay on the court as long as you're supposed to stay on the court. That means if I got to beat my best friend, so be it. And we might scrap about it too.
No question.
And that's what's missing now. Like, that's all good. And then we wipe ourselves off and we go home together. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't mess up the friendship. So I'm glad you brought that up, man. So much good, so many jewels being dropped right now. Appreciate it, man. So recruiting starts to pick up for you. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're doing your thing, man. If you can remember, obviously you went to UMass. What two schools did it come down to for that? And why did you choose UMass over that other school?
Man, that was the hardest thing for me, right? Because as a kid, you always like the big schools, right? You love those big schools, and you watch them, and you say, I would love to play here, right? And I'm the type of person, if I could have gone to Duke, I'd have went to Duke, just off the crowd and the fan base.
Yeah.
Shit like that gets me excited and gets me charged, make me want to run through a wall. That's just me personally, right? But then you break it down and see how your game translates into these different college systems with different college coaches. Love Texas, right? Reggie Freeman talk about this all the time with me. Terrence Rencher too. You'd have came here, you'd have been golden. And Reggie's like, me and you could have took over this place. But I was smart enough to know that Tom Penders was a real laid-back type of coach. Mm-hmm. With my personality and my demeanor, I felt like at the time I'd have walked all over Tom Penders. Mm-hmm. And then that translated into me getting in trouble on and off the court, right? Okay. So I said, I need to go somewhere where my coach is strenuous, rugged, and tough and demand a lot from me, just like my high school coach did, just like my AAU coach, Dave Jones, did, right? I needed somebody like Gary DeCesar to keep me in line so that I won't stray away. And I knew that. So if you look at the schools that I ultimately broke it down to, it was Purdue with Gene Cady.
Yeah.
UConn, Jim Calhoun.
Okay, another tough coach.
I loved Florida just because of the up and down type of system. But Lon Cougar was the coach at that time. And, it just came out of 2016 and things of that magnitude. He was just a little too laid back for me, too. Loved Michigan. Michigan was my go-to school with Steve Fisher because I wanted to be a Fab Five member more than anybody else. Jalen Rose was my guy. Big guard, could do everything. Mm-hmm. But just the people who they recruited the year before, I felt like me meshing with them, it'll be a fight every day. Because I'm not trying to lose. Y'all trying to be out here looking Hollywood. I'm not trying to lose, right? But Michigan was in there. And then Kansas came on late, right? And then UMass, of course, with Coach Calipari. So, ultimately it came down to that. Comfort, hard-nosed grit. Cal was young at the time, and Cal was fiery. Stepping on the court, punching his fist, like all those images I could just remember. And I'm kind of like, I need a coach like that that's going to push me, right? And that's what the last two was UMass or UConn. Okay. And the only reason why I didn't go to UConn is because two guards in our class signed before me. So Rashmel Jones, who's one of my good friends, who I've known for a long time, Ricky Moore from Georgia signed. They already had Ray Allen was still there. He's going to be a junior. Daron Schaefer, the Israeli guard, the tough little Israeli guard. He's tough, right? So I said, damn, those two guards signed already, right? And when I spoke to Calhoun, he was like, listen, I need one more guard. It's either you, Wayne Turner, or Stephon Marbury. And I was like, really? And that's where I kind of was like, all right, I'm cool. I'm going to go over here to the south of the border right next door to get in this UMass work because they only had Padilla and Travieso. So at the time, I was like, listen, Dante Bright, who's an animal on the wing.
Animal.
Dana Ding, one of the best finishers in college basketball to this day, right? Top 5 All-American. Dana Dingle, another one who did his job. Marcus Camby was up and coming at the time, Tyrone Weeks. So the crew was in place. It was kind of like, I need to go out here and beat one of these guards out of a spot or get some significant time. And that's why I ended up choosing UMass at the time. 2 hours from the crib, I could drive home. I could always see the family. But the dream school was Michigan. Definitely was Michigan.
Okay.
Definitely was Michigan.
Okay, I got to shout my wife out. She just got on. Love you, babe. Thanks for getting on.
Thank you.
So, all right, so you get to UMass, and like you said, man, like the squad was in place, and UMass was up and coming.
Big time.
You know what I mean? And by the way, Calhoun didn't get Stephon or Wayne Turner, but they did okay.
Yes, absolutely
they did okay. You know what I'm saying? They did okay.
They went and got Rick Hamilton,
yeah.
National
They did okay.
Yeah, they did okay.
So you get to UMass, and like I said, UMass is up and coming. All those guys that you talked about. I just talked to my guy Harper Williams the other day, man. So yeah, and he said Charlton Clarke is one of my young boys. So
yes.
yeah. So UMass was steadily climbing and getting. I'm not gonna, getting these below the radar guys and really built. Like I think Dante was one of the first high school All-Americans that he got. Like what I'm saying. So, but he had Lou Rowe, and they all kind of evolved in the system of UMass and now made UMass a powerhouse. So you, Larry Kettner, Big Larry, you know
Rest
what I'm saying?
Rest in peace to my guy.
Yeah, man, Big Larry was there, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, Ty Weeks, Monty Mack coming up behind you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Money Mack.
He was getting, so UMass was getting real solid players, like kind of like battling with UConn in the Northeast now, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so when you got there, you talked about playing for Calipari and my guy, Bruiser Flint, man. Love the hell out of Bruiser Flint, man. You understand me?
We're gonna touch upon that. That's my twin. Everybody calls him twins.
So talk about what it was like when you got there, man. Talk about what it was like when you got there.
The energy was unreal. The energy was unreal. Once again, up and coming program. The year before I got there, they went to the Sweet 16. So it was, listen, either we going to Elite 8 or we going to the 4, right? Or we win a national championship. And that was the buzz and the aura and the feel around. Marcus Camby was a young and budding rising star at the time. Mike Williams was a problem. Uzi was a problem and didn't get the respect that he really deserved, right? But, kind of similar to Monty Mack, same thing, right? Gunners, that could play, was really skilled. Dante, TV, Lou Rowe was a problem. Derek Kellogg was the catalyst, right? And made sure he kept everybody in line to do what they need to do. And he was just hard-nosed. So definitely in the Northeast, they started putting those pieces together. But they all fit Calipari and who he was. Tough-nosed kids who wasn't backing down from anybody, who wasn't afraid to challenge the Cheneys and the other Calhouns of the world. Like, Calipari wanted all the smoke, right? And it just trickled over into his players. So when I got there, it was more of the same thing. I'm from New York. I'm coming different off the top. Y'all all from up here, but my energy and what I was taught, that tough, hard-nosed grit, I just brought it to UMass, right? And kind of just fell into place because Bruiser was there egging me on the whole time. Kind of was like, yeah, this is my boy, because we're everybody keep telling me, we bumped heads a lot, but after the fact, when I was very close with his family, very close with his wife and everybody that's around him, they was like, you two are so much alike and so similar in your games and your approach. Didn't back down from nobody, didn't take no shit, and just flat out did your job, right? I didn't understand it at the time because I was there playing. It was after, and I'm kind of like, you know what? We are kind of similar, right? So everybody was like, that's your son, that's your son. So he always gave me that fatherly treatment, kind of like, I'm not giving you nothing. You got to earn everything. And we always bumped heads and, made me a tougher man made me who I am today. I definitely give Bruiser all props and homage and everything, because without him, I probably wouldn't have survived. I probably would have quit a long time ago. But just being from New York, there was no quitting me, right?
Yeah.
Run 40 suicides, and I'm kind of like, what's next, right?
Right.
I'm dead tired, but I wasn't allowing anyone to break me. And that's what I got out of college and being with Cal and Bruiser. If you don't have tough skin and you're not built for this, you can't play for those two types of coaches, right? And I think that's what's missing. But once again, I was prepared for that because Gary DeCesar was the same way.
Yeah.
Dave Jones was the same way, right? And growing up, my parents, they're from Jamaica. They was the same way. So always had that tough skin and, war ready. That's what I call it. I was always war ready. Always
Nice.
ready.
So 4 years at UMass, 4 years at UMass. Talk about your growth. Freshman year to your senior year. Talk about the growth that you made there.
It definitely was an eye opener, and it was gradual, right? By playing with the Gauchos and traveling so much, I was used to being away from home. I always tell my mom I feel like I sleep better on the road in hotels than I do in my own house because I'm so used to being away from home. So being at school, I was prepared for it. St. Raymond's prepared me for that. We had study hall. We got up early in the morning to go to practice. We had 2 practices a day. We ran the track. We did so many different things that prepared me mentally and physically for that. I think, just adjusting to college life, getting up and going to class after a 3-hour practice in the morning, staying awake, making sure your grades is done. Wasn't a big partier. I hung out. I wasn't a big partier though, right? I didn't drink at all in college, and a lot of people kind of like, you didn't drink in college? Never had one drink in college. I was the best fake drunk. I hope my wife isn't listening. I was the best fake drunk ever, right? Because I hung out with everybody, but I never had one drink in college, right? Because I was just so mentally focused, and that just wasn't me. So college was a great experience because it made me see what's to come, and it also taught me how to be very political as well, right? Because UMass was kind of like an NBA team at the time. UConn was on the other side of the border. We was on one side, and then you had Boston in the middle, and we were kind of like the NBA team, up and coming and rising in the ranks. So, shaking hands, signing autographs, doing all of those things, and trying to be courteous. After you just got cursed out by Calipari and Bruiser, you still have to come out and put on a smile. So it taught me how to be very diplomatical. Taught me how to be, political with everything I do, but also to know that the microscope was on your back, being in a high-profile school like this. So you couldn't mess up. You couldn't do things the way you wanted to. You kind of had to walk the tightrope. So growing up in college was very key, very, very key for me.
Absolutely. So now 4 years of college, and I always got to pay respect to the most important piece. You know what I mean? And that's graduating.
Graduating, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And that's another piece that I think gets lost in the game. Reem, what up, baby? So that's another thing that gets kind of lost in the game, right? Like everybody's so hyped to play basketball. Basketball is that key. I want to go here, I want to go there, and that's great. But at the end of it, though, we're going to school to not just to play basketball,
right?
But we're going there to get that piece of paper that can change our lives, that can change our families' lives. If we get to the NBA, or if we get to the overseas paper, that's the gravy.
Right.
But when that ball start bouncing, we need that piece of paper, man. And I salute everybody who goes there, man, and gets that piece of paper, and you did that. And
right.
We talked about it. You got a degree in sports management.
Right.
That's what I got. I got my degree in sports management also, man.
Let me tell you something, bro. It was a bittersweet moment, right, when I got that diploma and I graduated. Because one, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave school. School was great to me. 2, I was the second person in my family to get a college diploma, right? 3, I think I found my calling too late, right? Senior year, last semester, I took sports law. Changed my whole life because it taught me about the revenue that's coming in for college athletes, right? It taught me about building new stadiums to generate more revenue, right? How much money the NCAA is making off these college athletes and all these things. And it was just an eye opener because for 4 years I'm playing for this university, doing all these different things, bringing in so much money and attention. All of us are, and not knowing the ramifications behind it or what was going on behind it until I started doing sports law my senior year, second semester.
Yeah.
Loved the class, got an A, but I'm kind of like, I want more. Now I'm starving for it, right? And I'm like, damn, I miss my calling, right? Because when I went to school, I wanted to be a broadcaster. I thought I was the next Dick Vitale. I wanted to talk to everybody and be on TV talking crazy. And communications was so boring. And I was like, I got to do something different, man. So, you know, got into sports management and all the aspects about sports and all this stuff. So, don't know why I become an agent, but I'm good though, right? Being a principal and educating kids, I'm good, man.
No doubt. So, so now you take your game across the water. You know what I'm saying? You a kid from the Bronx, man. Now all of a sudden you got a passport. You know what I mean? Like,
scary times.
Talk about the different experiences, man. Like, you going to Russia, man. Like,
listen, it was scary times, right? Because one, my senior year, got hurt towards the end, right? Bad feet, started messing with me, had to get surgery. So I'm like, I'm close, but I'm trying to fight through it and be that warrior, but he just wasn't looking good out there, son. You wasn't looking good. So didn't sign with an agent so soon. And I think what happened was because my college coaches and Bruiser at the time, they all knew that I had good support at home. It wasn't like a push for them. Let's make sure we take care of June. Let's make sure he has what he needs, whatever. He kind of like, he got so many people in his corner. He got the Gauchos. He got his sponsors. He got Coach the Season. He got so many different people. Right. He'll be okay. So I went out there and kind of fended on my own, right? Played on that little USA team that went overseas in Italy. Went crazy, got an MVP. After that, we went to Greece, same team. Went crazy again, got an MVP. So now it's kind of like, yo, who's representing you? Chris Koch at the time, who was doing some overseas stuff, he just kind of was like my spokesperson at the time. Didn't sign no paperwork, didn't confirm anything. He was just kind of my spokesperson. So when I came home after all of that, the phone started buzzing. Then I had some agents going after me, right? My biggest regret is not signing with this one lady, and I can't remember her name, but she was never heard of a female agent before at all. But this lady was going hard. And me being naive, not knowing nothing from nothing, is kind of like, never heard of a lady agent to represent you overseas or do whatever. So I kind of curved her, right? And then wound it up with nothing. So, you know, Chris kind of helped me get over to Russia, and I went to Russia for about 4 months. Played on like a Super League team that travels from different countries to countries and play. And my whole thing was, listen, man, I don't need no money while I'm in Russia. I had everything that I need. I just want to send it home to my mom and wire it into an account. But, you know, the OGs also told me, listen, they get funny overseas when it comes to money. If they hold your money and they jerk you around, if you don't put your foot down, they're going to continue to do it. So it happened one time, put my foot down. I said, if it happened again, I'm out of here. It happened a second time, then I was like, you know what? It's time for me to go. And when I came back home, I just never went back. Never went back. Got into the school thing, started doing the education thing. Do I regret it? Not really, because I never put all my eggs into that basket. I wanted to play ball. I love playing basketball. I love the game of basketball. But I never put all my eggs into that one basket to say, I have to make it. This is my only way out. That was never my thing. It was a plan B, C, and D for me. It was never the A plan, right? So, you know, if I could tell any of my kids that I'm coaching now, whatever the case may be, you can't put all your eggs into that basket, right? Because at some point, those eggs are going to crack. And if they crack, then what's going to happen next, right? So, you know, love it, dream about it, you know, do what you got to do to get there. But at the same token, you have to have backup plans to make sure that you're good. So,
no question about it. No question. So that's a great segue into my next thing, man. And another parallel between you and I is, you know, I work in education with kids.
Yes, indeed.
And in order to, you know, work in education with kids, like, you got to have some type of heart. You understand what I'm saying? And now take everything that you've gone through and say, listen, I'm going to give it back to you guys, just like, and we're going back to the OGs, like the OGs gave it to me. But we're going to kind of throw in this passion that we played with, and we're going to come at you extra. I'm going to come at you extra hard, because now this is my, I tell kids all the time, this is my NBA now. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't make the NBA. Coming back and giving back to these kids is my NBA now. So we walk up into a practice in New Jersey with the Black Ops program,
right?
And I see the energy and the passion coming through, like you're still playing basketball,
right?
So talk about how you are now. You're not playing basketball anymore, but we have to make sure that these babies are okay. You know what I'm saying? So talk about your style as an educator, and then your style with Black Ops.
They're both the same style, right? They just intertwine, right? If you're gonna be coaching kids now, I strongly urge you to be a teacher, right? I always have my principal hat on. I always have my educator hat on, right? Because once again, I am the OG now. I went through these pitfalls that you guys are about to stumble upon, right? I'm just trying to give you the blueprint to jump over that hurdle without falling into the pitfall, right? Class is always in session. I always have something that I have to say because I've lived it and I experienced it, right? You're up and coming and trying to get to where I got initially. And my thing is for you to get further past me. I need you to grow and get further past me. So it's just like school. If you can't pay attention to detail on the court, then you can't do it in school, right? It's going to be a big difference. And you're going to miss something that's going to allow you that opportunity that you're looking for. So once again, class is always in session. Like I said, I wear my principal hat a lot. My coaching staff, who I love, Justin Bright, Al Shep, who's with me, the GM, Bernard Boone, who does a great job. We're always kind of feeding off of each other, right? And sometimes I wear that principal hat, and sometimes I know when to fall back and be that TA, that teacher's assistant, to let Shep do his talking and promote himself, right? And then sometimes I got to sit back again and let Justin do the talking and be the lead teacher as well, right? Because that's how we all want to grow together in this game. I think, especially in this game of basketball, a lot of people try to step on each other's toes to get ahead, right? And it's so unfortunate because we all can get to the same place together, right? Without stepping on each other's toes, without, throwing shade on one end and not on the other end. We all could get there at the same time doing the same exact thing. It's our society today. It's definitely our society. Nobody ever wants to get one-upped. But at the same token, if you already did what you had to do, you can never be one-upped.
Right.
People gonna remember. People gonna know what you do and what you give off. So you don't have to put yourself in the limelight, or you don't have to put yourself on Front Street. That's what I call it. Just do what you naturally do, right? And if it doesn't come from the heart, then don't do it. If you don't do it.
No doubt. And talk about the culture that you guys are building over at Black Ops. You know what I mean? So we're not going, you know what I mean? Like, there's no babying going in. Like you said, ain't no sugarcoating going on in that gymnasium. These kids are young. They're getting it from guys who experience this thing. They're getting pushed. So if it's your voice, they're being pushed. If it's Shep's voice, they're being pushed. If it's Justin's voice, they're being pushed. And then obviously, like when you play for Black Ops, the general Carmelo Anthony, you know what I mean? You got that to a sense, you know what I mean? You got that to look up to, that epitome of the one who did make it. So talk about the culture that you guys are trying to establish over at Black Ops.
I just got one word for it, really. It's authentic, right? It ain't phony, it ain't fake, it's real. I push these kids the way I was pushed. Not as raw and vulgar as it was when I was back then, right? But it's firm. and you understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not going to accept mediocrity. I'm not going to accept you cutting corners. I'm going to push you to the limit. You might walk out the gym and say, you know what, this coach, I'm tired of him, or whatever the case may be. But you'll be back next week, or you'll be back the next day, right? Because you know it's love. It's coming from a sincere place. I'm not ridiculing you or bashing you just to do that, because ultimately you have to play for me. You have to perform, right? So at the same token, I'm not trying to diminish your game. I'm trying to help your game. And kids don't understand it because they get caught up into their own feelings, right? You see it a lot, especially when kids start losing in basketball games. Then the finger pointing start going on. You start blaming each other. That's when you got to turn it into a game. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. And usually I call a timeout. Let's say you're losing by 20-something points. I'm going to call a timeout. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it by shell, right? We got to stop them 4 times, and we got to score 4 times. That's it. And I have to hold you to that. And we do the same thing in practice. I'm going to hold you to that. We call it shell. You got to make 4 stops, and you got to score 4 times. Even if you don't score, you still got to make those stops. Because once again, you're cutting the lead in deficit. Once that 4 points, we scored them 4 baskets. And we stopped them 4 times. We're calling another timeout. See, now we done got ourselves back in the game. Now we down 12 instead of down, you see what I'm saying, 20 points. Or we're down 10 now instead of 20. And it's a mindset, right? It's a mindset that you definitely have to instill into these kids. And it's not easy because, once again, some of them are ready to throw in the towel, right? And at the same token, you have to know during these tough times, you resort back to all the running that we did, all the suicides that we did on the beach and the stuff that we're doing, all the tough times. And now is when it pays off, right? Where we felt like nobody was working as hard as we were working because we're in the gym either early in the morning or late at night when nobody else was supposed to be. This is when it's supposed to pay off, right? So it's also to how you talk to these kids, right? And have to build these types of relationships in order for them to understand the point that you're trying to make, come across with.
Yeah, no doubt. So I love how you said that. So as we get ready to wrap this thing up, man, I wanna hit you with some quick hitters,
Absolutely.
So first one is toughest matchup in high school, toughest matchup in college. Is that my man Skip to my Lou on there? Skip, what up? Is that you? Is that Skip?
My guy Skip.
Skip, I gotta get Skip up on here, man.
Listen, toughest. Since you already said Skip, everybody keeps joking with me about the time that we played Fresno at Fresno, and that white boy Chris Herring, whew, killer. But he was from Boston too, so it was a Boston beef with him.
Right. That's the clip I put up too.
Yeah.
But I ain't put the clips up. I ain't put the clips of y'all pushing each other though.
Yeah, when I almost pushed him into the 3rd row. Yeah. I'm different. And Skip was like, June, chill. Nah, Skip, this nigga don't know me. I'm not from here. Right? So Skip was like, nah, June, chill. But tough. That kid was tough. Hard-nosed. Played like he was from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. Like, I just love his grit and how he played. All right, college. So, I mean, but there's a lot of college tough matchups, man. Catino Mobley at Rhode Island was a problem. Shantae Rogers, who was probably
quick,
all of 5'3",
quick,
get up underneath your skin and just that he was different. The Temple Wars were definitely something to talk about too. Bumping heads with Chauncey Billups and things of that magnitude. High school, man, listen, it was either St. Raymond's Wars, St. Raymond's, St. Anthony's Wars. We used to bang out with Sham and them at LaSalle. Man, Gary, listen, I'll tell you the truth, man. It was practice for me. To go against Gary Saunders, one of my best friends, and me and Gary came up together at the Gauchos. Gary was the toughest dude I've seen at the age of 10. I seen Gary walk out of gyms with 10 trophies at one time. Most rebounds, most points, most assists, MVP, league MVP, tournament MVP, career high, this, that, and the third. Man, Gary Saunders was such a problem growing up. Sham guard was another problem. I think, once again, it was practice for me, man. Ramel Lloyd, Rock Lloyd, another problem. Jamel Thomas, 530. You name it. And we all on the same team. Felipe Lopez, like, goes without question. Yeah, Shimu Evans, Gordon Malone, Tim Thomas, Shaheen Holloway, like, so many legends, and it was like you had to grind. Kerry Thompson, Curry Goat, Charles Jones, another animal, who didn't back down from nobody. Todd Miles, another one who we bumped heads all the time. Man, Darnell Williams, you name it, man. I mean, it was wars after wars after wars in high school, AU, you name it. So, you know, I can't really pinpoint. Like I said, I just ran down about 15, 20 different names. Jared Lockhart, one of my other childhood friends. Jared went to Mount St. Michael's and went to Pitt. We had some wars. I mean, you name it. Like, it was so many different ball players back then. It's like there was never a night off. There was never a night off, right? AU or high school basketball. And then we went to college. It was just that much. It wasn't easier, but, you know, he was able to adapt much quicker because that AAU scene and then the high school scene was so different for us and different for me to say, man. And then going against Kareem and Eric every day in practice was no easy task at all, right? We tried to one-up each other each day because we had to jump on the train or jump on the bus and go home. We had to have something to talk about. Right? So, yeah, man, it was wars, man.
Battles,
and I miss them. Yeah, definitely miss them. It made me who I am today. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So my last question, when it's all said and done, you ain't coaching no more. How does Charlton Clarke want to be remembered?
Man, I've never been phony, never been fake, always been genuine with people, always look in your face and shake your hand. You know, some people might say bad things about me, some people might say some great things about me, man. But the one thing you would know, talking to me, coming across me, I've always been the same. 10 toes down, stand for what I believe in. Just a genuine dude, man. I never, you know what I'm saying, like, been to the streets. I know what the street life is like, but never really engaged into it. That's not my thing. And, you know, it works for other people, don't work for me, man. Just, I would just say stand up dude. I stand up, regular type of dude, man, that use this game and use that orange ball in a couple of different ways to open up a lot of different doors for me, right? Right. I was able to say that I took the own air out of my own basketball. A lot of people can't say that. Right? My ball is still bouncing. Right? And that's what I want to teach these kids. You should determine when you want to take that air out of your basketball and how you can live your life moving forward. You know what I mean?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, Coach, man, I appreciate you getting on here with me, man, and sharing these nuggets, man. And obviously, you know, I'll see you soon, man, doing some of the work with Black Ops and everything. So I can't wait to see you on that sideline in action, yelling and screaming, man. But we'll definitely be in touch, man. And once again, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you, dog.
I appreciate you, too. Thank you for all that you do, man, and helping these kids out and these families. I appreciate you as well, my brother.
No doubt. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Bless. Yes, sir.